Hello again. Hi. I'm just going to carry on doing the keep coughing. The analysis of Dewey Evans's talk TV interview. It just goes on. And he's done some other ones as well. God, I don't know if I can bear to listen to them, but you never know what he'll give away. And he will give away stuff. Just as a little few side things. I mean, they're big things, but there's arrest of a nurse in Birmingham regarding alleged poisonings. What's the chances of that? What are we seeing here? Some kind of moral panic. I think that's too soft a phrase. Some kind of mass scapegoating. Scapegoating is too soft as well. The thing about the scapegoat or the escapegoat is that the people that in older societies that would have done it, they were explicit about it being, they were doing it for a utility, to take all the burden of the ills or the bad luck of a village or a community away and to drive this poor. They knew the goat was innocent. They didn't pretend the goat was guilty. The job of the goat was to take the burden of all the bad luck and the ills and all the things that had gone wrong. But the people who did it to the goat, thinking it would help somehow, weirdly, they knew the goat was innocent, and they would have said, yeah, of course the goat's innocent. That's not the point. We're choosing it. We're doing it because it's innocent. But the difference here with Lucy Letby is that they will have us all believe that she's guilty. And the only way these people can bear to live with themselves, I don't know how, all the ones involved, all of them, is that they at least pretend to the world anyway that they believe that she's guilty. I think they're torn up inside, or they should be. They shouldn't be sleeping well. They shouldn't be sleeping well because they know it's not gonna go away. This isn't gonna go away. Every day that Lucy Letby is in prison is a crime, a further crime each day. Just seen some journalists bragging about their podcast that they're up for some awards because of their podcast they've done on the trial. And you'll never guess what the awards are called. They're called Freedom Awards. There's a phrase that John Waters, the Irish writer, uses. He's brilliant. If you've not come across him, you'll see him on BitChute quite a lot. And he calls them journaliers instead of journalists. Journaliers, which is what the vast majority of them are. Maybe they're the very odd one. Maybe unlike local newspapers, that they're going to be all right. Some of them. But the big ones, the mainstream ones, are the ones that are into TV, radio, and stuff like that. You don't get anywhere unless you're an empty, soulless entity, a husk. So they're up for these awards, two of them. One of them's just interviewed via the Daily Mail. Interviewed the scoundrel. Well, that's too fluffy a word. The charlatan, the fraud, the evil bastard that is Evans. And they're up for Freedom Awards, interviewing a sick, wizened old goat like Evans, allowing him to further condemn Lucy Letby, further condemn an innocent person. And they're up for a nice little shiny bauble called a Freedom Award. And they'll probably get it as well, won't they? They'll get it, and they'll get clapped by all their friends in that rancid industry. A pit of hell. A pit of hell. This little story I said in a couple of videos back about being accused of stealing all this computer equipment when I worked for an electric company. I didn't quite finish it off, I don't think, because what happened was the next day I went to work as normal, ready to receive some apologies, and I had my entrance card, like an electric, you go through a barrier. And I got to this quite a big complex there. It's like electricity for the whole area. I try to put it in and it doesn't work. And I ask the security guard, why it's not working. And he lets me through, and he said, oh, do you want to go to where you're going, and you need to hand your card in. I said, well, what do you mean? Well, anyway, I find where I was working, this porter cabin, where I was I'd supposed to have broken into and nicked all this stuff. And I expected them to apologise, but I thought something's gone wrong here with the, the entrance card thing. And I got there, and none of them would look at me and speak to me even, except one who just wanted to know the password for all the work I'd done for the last 6 or 7 weeks on this data stuff. And like an absolute fool, I gave it to them. I'll always regret that. I kind of spat it out. But none of them, they were, including the woman that had dobbed me into the police for no reason whatsoever, other than saying in an ad hoc way, oh, I'm looking for a laptop. And that was the reason why. The reason I've told this story, and it's infinitesimal, but the same operation is there. You've been treated really badly, and instead of having the decency to apologise for it, they double down, or triple down, triple down. And that's a tendency in quite a lot of human beings, that they would do that on an individual basis or on a group mind basis. They won't say, oh God, what the fuck, what have we done? I'm so sorry. Oh, it's our fault. Please, can you forgive what we've done now? As I say, it's an infinitesimal thing in comparison, obviously. But that's the dynamic. They'll do something to you, and you see it in abusive relationships when you look at you look at programs about that. Because the abuse is happening, the person almost like, well, I've abused this person so much, well, I've got the right, I've got to justify that, and I'll abuse them even more. They've got to be lowered and lowered and lowered and lowered and lowered. And I think that same type of snowball effect of devaluing, and monstering of Lucy Letby has happened through all those absolute arseholes, those arseholes of so-called doctors, the arseholes of the police, the arseholes of Evans and Bohin and all those creeps, the arsehole of a prosecutor, the arseholes of the CPS. Punishing the innocent, and because they'll just keep on adding more and more, almost to justify what they've done. Well, in other words, it's the concept of, well, they wouldn't have been punished thus far had they not been guilty of something. And that's why all the mob comes through now, well, oh, they should bring back hanging for Lucy Letby. Because she wouldn't be being punished like this. How could all those people be wrong? She wouldn't be being punished like this unless she was evil. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's absolutely vile, and that's a weakness and a potential for great evil, and that's what we've seen here. It is a great and manifest evil. I'm going a bit off the subject, but well, not really. But anyway, back to old. Somebody came up with the sobriquet Dreary Evans instead of Dewey. Dreary Evans. Well, that's slightly too kind, but anyway, Dreary Evans. Back to the interview from late August, Talk TV. The interviewer says, it was your job, I guess, yeah, I kind of guess it was your job. It was your job, I guess, to explain what had happened to these babies. Not by who, of course. That was then the job of other parts of the prosecution. Interesting phrasing. Other parts of the prosecution. I know it's just an idiot journalist. But the inference you can draw there is that she's suggesting he's part of the prosecution. He's meant to be an independent witness. Yes, he's working with the prosecution in part of the prosecution's case. But even at that stage, it's this time thing again. It's the idea that he's doing reports already as part of the prosecution. Really? Is that what you're supposed to do? Aren't you supposed to first and foremost decide whether there's even a crime being committed? Aren't you meant to be independent and find out what's happened to the babies and look at all possibilities, not just your id fix that you've got right from the beginning. And then Evans answers, quote, this is Evans again. Yes, that's right. Sorry, yes. I should add that what I did was I sent the reports to Chester Police and I said, look, we've got these 15, and it became 17, where I'm concerned about what's happened. And what I said was, you need to look at the duty roster for each of these events, because if you harm a small baby, that baby will deteriorate very quickly. It will deteriorate within seconds or minutes. So therefore, what you need to do is to look at the duty rosters and find out which nurses and which doctors were on duty at that time. And it soon became apparent that there was, he breaks off a bit, even after the first 4 babies, there was only one nurse who was on duty for all of the events, and that was Lucy Letby. And it later emerged that she was on duty for all 17 occasions when one or other of these babies collapsed and or died. Well, there's so much in that, isn't it? I mean, where do you begin? Well, I'll try to begin bit by bit. He says these 15 and it became 17 cases where I'm concerned about what's happened. Oh, he's concerned about it then. You don't know what's happened. You're just concerned about it. It's very sort of loose language, isn't it? Just concerned. And then you've got to look at the duty roster. He knew. He knew what they'd find because he knew that Lucy Letby was off the ward. He knew because the police knew. And the police knew so that he knew. The doctors knew. The doctors had known since July 2016, almost a year ago. They'd known she was off the ward. The doctors had been suspecting Lucy for a year before that. Everyone knows. Everyone knows what they're trying to achieve. This is utter fakery. The idea, he's got no idea. He knows what those 17 cases will point to because he's already been directed, I believe. That's my speculation. He knows that we'll find a cross by Lucy's name for all the 17 that he's picked out. Because he's been pointed to them. Because he knows what was suspected by the doctors. He knows them. He knows the name. He knows that Lucy's off the ward. That's what I believe. The police know. They tell us. They tell us straight away they know. And here's a real classic. Here's a real classic coming up from old dreary Evans. So he goes, therefore what you need to do is look at the duty rosters and find out which nurses and which doctors were on duty at the time. What's wrong with that? Well, what's wrong with that is they didn't do it for the doctors. They didn't even do it for the doctors. They only did it for the nurses. So they didn't do it for the doctors. Because obviously they're doctors, aren't they? And they never do anything wrong, never make mistakes, never lie, never kill anyone, never do anything untoward, above reproach. Here's another giveaway coming up, a real big one. And it soon became apparent that there was, and he breaks a bit in his speaking, that there was, even after the first 4 babies, there was only one nurse who was on duty for all of the events. What's interesting about that? Well, what is interesting about that is that goes right back to end of June, early July, and Dr. Breary. He's been focused on those 4 babies, those 4 events for 2 years before old Dreary Evans pretends to do some reports to back up. It's just a carbon copy. It's just a tick box operation. He's there to ratify what the doctors have already all done in their minds. That's all he's doing, and just to come up with a reason for it. And he's gone with air embolus, using a 35-year-old bit of research which has been superseded many times. And he's doing it via X-rays when they're not air embolus isn't diagnosable after a baby or any person has been dead for more than 25-30 minutes. And there are many other reasons for air embolus with a condition such as necrotizing. I can't remember what it is. Necrotizing enterocolitis, which is the result of quite possibly the infection, the spike in infection that's been going around there due to the hospital wastewater flooding all over the floor and dripping through the pipes above them in the ward above, respiratory ward, I believe, or stroke ward. It's been called either. It's been called both. I'm not sure which one it is. So much so that they end up destroying the whole building and ripping out the whole drainage system a little bit after Lucy leaves. Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? They get rid of the whole drainage system after she leaves, papering over it. Well, burying the truth of what's happened there. That it's been a series of infections, spike in infections, because of the mess that place was in. That's the cover-up. Can you imagine the negligence claims and how far back they might go? Years backwards and some period forwards. There's a negligence claim going on right now, I believe, and it was set off in 2022 about the death of a baby at that same neonatal unit, with the rebuilt one, the one where Breary's still there. Gibbs has retired. Don't know what's happened to Dr. B. Jairam apparently has moved elsewhere. But Breary's still there. And they're facing a massive negligence claim that just happened in 2022, just last year. So I find it so interesting that what Drury Evans does here, what old Drury does here as his first opening answer to this. It's instructive. He goes back to the first four. Well, you could say, okay, that's the timing of it, but nonetheless, it is the first four that Breary ordered the investigations about, which then Breary decides it's Lucy's fault. And Jairam comes in very quickly after that and decides it's all Lucy's fault. And then they have the meeting with Karen Rees in October or November, in which there's a difference of opinion about what is said. And I believe Karen Rees, 100%. It's getting a bit dark here, isn't it? I'll put the light on a bit. Oh God, that's a bit... Oh God. Anyway, where were we? Yeah, so he's gone back to those four. Very interesting that he would do that. And that was Lucy Letby. Like he doesn't know. Like he's never seen her name. Like he hasn't been looking at thousands of bits of paper with her name and initial all over them. Oh God, I never heard of her before. Oh God, was there a nurse moved out? Wouldn't his first question be, oh God, is she still on the unit then? Oh God, we've got to stop it, got to get her off. That's it, I've just thought of it. I've just thought of that. He never mentions at any point, oh God, oh no, I was worried. Was she still there? Are they still letting her? Oh my God, that's just a penny just dropped. This is why this on the road, moment to moment thinking works sometimes. He's never at any point said, well, I got onto them and said, if you find there is a person, then you've got to get them off the ward. And please assure me that they're not on there, because I think there's someone... These are all murders and they're all attacks. They're all attempted murders. God, you've got to get that nurse off the ward there. No, he doesn't need to say that. He doesn't need to say it. Because he knows it. He knows it when he starts. He knows it before he starts. There's been contact between him and the gang of four, however many of them. He knows it before he starts. That's why he doesn't have to show any concern or even the memory of the concern when he realises all these murders are happening and he's got to report it. He's not going to say to anybody, oh God, is she still there? For God's sake, don't tell me she's still working there. He doesn't have to have that concern. We know why now. Because he knows that she's not working there and hasn't been since 2016. God, that's a light bulb moment for me anyway. Yeah. There's something there in that. So just to finish off that quote where he says, and later it emerged that she was on duty for all 17 occasions where one or other of these babies collapsed and or died. Well, on duty. Other people are on duty as well. And she wasn't on duty when there are other deaths and other crashes that Dewey either didn't see at all, didn't have the notes for at all, because there would have been other ones beyond that 33. You're looking at an 18-month period. They selected them. And like I said before, they selected them so that he could very easily move past. In this instance, it goes up to 17, but he drops this 33 down to 15. 33 cases, 33 babies, drops him down to 15, all Lucy. Because he can move past the other ones very easily. Because he knows he's not meant to find anything wrong with them. He knows it. Like he knows that the first 4 babies were suspected by Brewery back in 2015. Back in the summer of 2015. And the management, whom he hates, whom Evans hates, the management, had been sticking it to the poor beleaguered consultants for 2 years. And finally the cavalry have arrived in the form of the dopey Cheshire police, the thick as mince Cheshire police, and this genius, Evans, this Sherlock Holmes, this genius. He's arrived to back up the consultants, to stick it to the management once and for all. But I've really got to hold on to that. I feel we've got to hold on to that idea. There's never been any expressed concern here by him when he realises, oh my God, this is happening. Oh my God, there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's 15. I've got to let them know straight away. Whoever's doing it, you've got to get this roster straight. I can't take my time with this. Can't take my time. Let me make sure straight away, as the first priority, is the nurse that I keep reading the name all the time, but pretending I don't know a name. I don't know any names, no, just keep reading it. Is she still on the ward? Please assure me that she isn't. You don't need to do it, because he already knew it. And he knew it before that she was suspected, before the police were even involved. That's what I believe. Yeah, I'll wind it up now, but just the utter disingenuousness of saying later it emerged. Oh, it emerged. And here's the other thing. Why is it down to this brain box, this incredible scientific and medical mind, Dreary Evans, to come up with this revolutionary idea of checking the rosters? Nobody else would have thought of that. The hospital, the consultants, the police. It's got to be down to him to do it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have known what to do next, would they? None of them. If he hadn't thought of that, they would go, well, you got the reports. We don't know what to do. What do we do now, Dr. Evans? Come on, Dewey, you need to help us out here. Well, it's the rosters. Could you look at the rosters? Oh, God, yeah, of course, yeah. Didn't think of that, no. Thank God you're there, Dewey. Oh, look, it's all the ones that the doctors have been suspecting for the last 2 years. Isn't that a coincidence? Well done, Dewey, you've played a blinder there. Fantastic. And the doctors go, yeah, we were right, weren't we? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We were right, weren't we? Look, we've got an expert to tell us. One of the most fraudulent, decrepit, lying charlatans on this planet. He will get a shed load of karma coming. And he should get, in any just world, a punishment 20 times what Lucy Letby has gone through already. In God's name, may that happen.